Hi, everybody. My name is Chaz Nuttycombe. I am the Executive Director of State Navigate. Today, we have a great new tool that I am so excited for us to be unveiling. It's something actually we put together pretty quickly over the last maybe few weeks. We have two great tools, and this is part of a upcoming new feature on State Navigate called Atlas. Atlas is our new assistant, AI assistant that will help users learn more about state legislatures. They can put whatever queries they want, and if we have the data on it, it'll be able to answer. There are two great tools that we have that we're unveiling today, though. One is Compare, Atlas Compare, and the other is Atlas Filter. And Compare came before Filter. Jack Kersing, our creative director, had the idea for Compare, and looking at Compare gave me the idea for Filter. So he's done a great job putting these together over the last few weeks, along with pretty much everything else in Atlas. And I'm personally really excited for Filter. I think it is not to toot our own horn, but I think it's the greatest thing for state legislatures of the decade, point blank period. But I'm going to talk a little bit about this tool, both of these tools, and give you all a little rundown on how they work. So, Tier 2 subscribers to State Navigate will be able to access these great tools. You will be able to use Compare, and in Compare, which we're going to get into in here in a second, pretty much you are able to compare the almost 90 fields of data we have for the 13 states that we have, and comparing it to pretty much any district you want across those fields. It can be in state, so let's say Iowa House District 1 versus Iowa House District 22, right? Or it can be out of state, right? Minnesota House District 55B versus Virginia House District 67, right? So it's a really great tool to be able to see the interesting differences in election results, demographics, education, income, even campaign finance, right? For the campaign finance data that we have. Unfortunately, Minnesota campaign finance is going to be taking a little bit of time for some different reasons there. We've got a lot of campaign finance now up to date for candidates on State Navigate. Okay, so without further ado, let me go ahead and show you Atlas Compare. So what we have here is the default landing. When you go, it'll pull up a random district, and if you just want to cross out that district, just hit the X, right? If you want to cross out the field, hit an X, right? So if you want to empty it out, this is what you get. So let's see here. I am from Virginia, so I'm interested in seeing some differences in Virginia, right? So if I'm doing state to state, right? So House District 1 in Virginia versus House District, let's say 40, right? Or how about 41? That's where my alma mater is, right? You'll be able to see some differences of in-state election data versus in-state election data. If you're comparing one district to another across two different states or multiple states, right? Because you can add as many of these, districts as you want. You're only going to be able to get data where, you have like the same kind of election going on, right? So I think it's a great tool for both general election analysis, primary analysis, or just, if you're a nerd, any kind of analysis you want, modeling, targeting, or whatever your heart desires. So let's see here. I can look up and see how these districts voted in the lieutenant governor race, right? House District 1, this is in Arlington, very close in the lieutenant governor. This is the lieutenant governor Democratic primary, right? That's LG Dem. That's how you know it's the Dem primary 2025. So Ghazala Hashmi narrowly won this. Nova was very contested. But Ghazala Hashmi also did really well in college towns out west. So she won this by 11 points. Okay, well, how about some demographics here? Let's look at age, right? How about the 18 to 24%? Well, Ghazala Hashmi again, did well in college towns, even though the primary pretty much happened when there weren't any college students on campus. So House District 41 has 32% of its population being age 18 to 24, which is pretty high, whereas there's only 10% in House District 1. We can also see even forecast odds, right? House District 1, in our forecast, the projected margin was the Democrat winning by 63 points, whereas House District 41 was a lot closer with a projected margin of 3.4 points, right? And if you want to even just like look at the state ledge data, you can, right? Last state ledge election, you can see um, I actually didn't know this. We literally got Patrick Hope's seat in House District 1 off by a tenth of percentage point. We're a little bit more off in House District 41, but you know, a projected winner is a projected winner. Okay. We can also look at finance, right? Lily Franklin spent 1.2 million, and Patrick Hope spent $428,000. You can do also raise if you want to do that. And you can do like total raise and everything if you want. So the total raise between the candidates, right? So the cumulative candidates between OpenChain, the Republican, and Lily Franklin, they spent $3.5 million. Whereas House District 1, not really much going on there. Patrick Hope is most of the fundraising, and that's going to like other candidates and a little bit on his own campaign for the primary. But the total spent there is only 724,000. And I say only as a Virginian. There, of course, as we get into other states, you'll see that Virginia is very much the exception with how much money we have in our state elections. Okay. So this is great. I mean, again, you can pull up a whole bunch of other stuff. You want to see who the incumbent is. And yeah, just a whole bunch of stuff you want to compare in-state to in-state, right? So let's keep the same fields, but let's look at some other states, right? Let's look at Colorado House District 29 versus South Carolina House District 33, right? And there you go. We had the same fields and everything, and you can add as many fields as you want. Again, it automatically drops that election data. If it's like only the in-state, right? So elections, latest margin, president 2024, last state ledge, right? U.S. House even, whole bunch of stuff. And again, there are a lot of demographics you can choose from here, right? Something I think is really interesting that we just added, that I had the idea for is, we've been seeing this sort of democratic socialist insurgents, or, Dem Tea Party, whatever you want to call it, is what percentage is renting. So I don't know. Let's see. Colorado House, Colorado is a very white liberal state. Maybe like Minnesota, right? I think we get up into this range. We're getting the more liberal districts. Yeah. So you can see like the percent that is renting, right? That's a big thing in these Democratic primaries. And there are other things in Republican primaries too, right? That are very indicative of like maybe what faction or what ideology is going to win a Republican primary, just as there are in Democratic primaries right now. So you're able to see that in this district, almost 90% of people in this seat are renting, whereas in this district in Colorado, only about a third are. Right, and I think it's just really cool. You can also literally just copy this, and you're going to be able to get this in a nice little CSV. So add as many districts as you want and get this comparison. And again, you can just get a link, you can get a table, whatever you want to do, in order to get this data. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful tool that Jack has put together, and I think this is going to be great when we talk about maybe a little bit of quibble of, oh no, my district's more liberal than yours, or my district's whiter than yours, or it's more wealthy, or it's this, or it's that, or it's less. I think this would be a great tool. I've shown it to a couple people who are interested in this kind of data, and they're very excited about it. And I hope the rest of our user base is excited about it as this launches. Once this video goes out. Okay. Now the next thing we are going to get is Atlas Filter, which is my personal favorite new tool that we have at State Navigate. Kind of similar to Compare, right? You're still able to get all these fields, but you can get a whole treasure trove of data and just put it in a nice, easy list if you want to find every single district that matches your parameters, right? So let's stick with, since I got the idea for the renter homeowner thing, looking at the Dem primaries in New York and Colorado, right? Let's kind of stick with that. What would be maybe some parameters where you would see like kind of these super, super left-wing candidates do really well in, right? So let's clear our fields here, right? Here's some X, X, boom. Okay. So we've got all the districts. We've got 1,808 districts right now. And of course, we're going to have more on the way. State Navigate, we want to open up in all 50 states. We're working very hard in opening up in new states as quickly as possible now. We've been incorporating AI, and it's really been helping with scraping data. So, really excited. But let's get into kind of this exercise here so you can see kind of how filter works. All right. So, if you click up here at the top, you can, isolate any states you want. So if you just want Alaska, you just do that. Or if you want all of them, you do that. Or if you want to just take out some states, right? You want to only look at a region, you can do that, right? But I'm interested in all the districts we have for this exercise, right? So let's see. President 2024. If I want to see what districts maybe that may elect a Dem socialist Mamdani kind of person or whatever, definitely should be voting uh, for Kamala Harris. So let's see, we just put it even. Also, you don't have to do the slider thing. You can just do inputs. So the margin here is 0, or you can do the margin here 1, right? 10th of a percentage point. Okay, but I like the sliders personally. So let's see. I'm actually going to do this. So if you hit this, so this is when you have like the greater than. So this is going to be actually voted for even, right, tied on the dot, or it voted for Trump. But I'm interested, really, what I like to do is I like to use these brackets and get to set whatever range I want, right? So I'm going to do even, and I'm going to do, just in general, did it vote for Kamala Harris in the 2024 presidential election, right? Because a Democratic Socialist getting elected in a Democratic primary conservative district is pretty much useless because they are almost certainly going to lose the general election, right? Poli-sci 101. Okay, so we have that field. Now, let's get into the renter, right? So rental percentage. And let's say, honestly, it really needs to be like, what, 40% renter? So, and I'm going to use the input here. Boom, 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 right? 40% rental, right? 40% of the population should probably be renters, if not a majority. Let's just say 40%. Okay. Now, while this wing of the party, the Democratic Party, is, making inroads with non-white voters, just as they did in like Harlem, right? You had the Democrat running for Congress there actually win black voters, which is, I think, kind of a first-time thing for those kind of candidates who usually do well with like college-educated whites and a little bit on the wealthy side. Let's just kind of stick with what we know of like, okay, probably white percentage should be pretty high, right? The district's population should be, let's say, bare minimum 65% white. Okay. And what you're going to be seeing here is what districts matches your filters. If it matches all your filters, it's going to appear here and here. And if it only matches filter 1 and 2, or 1 and 3, or 2 and 3, it'll appear here. And if it just matches, I think it's pretty, self-explanatory, right? But we're looking for like, what districts are those kind of like prime, Dem socialist things. And again, you can do this for like anything. If like, the demographics and all the election data of like, okay, what kind of candidate would win here? I mean, you can just do it, right? What candidate would elect a Freedom Caucus person, right? But the Freedom Caucus hasn't really been gaining much ground this year, so I think it's not really, I guess, as interesting. Very much was interesting in 2022, though. Okay. So we should also, these candidates kind of do better with younger people, right? So let's say 18 to 24% should definitely be, I think, maybe 20% of voters at least, right? So now we've got a lot of filters here, right? So you've got a lot of dots, and we are able to see all those that match our filters. So interesting, there is one in House District 70, in Virginia, House District 78, right? And this will pull up House and State Senate districts in case you didn't know. And I think these are pretty good filters. We can filter it down and more and want if we want to kind of maximize the what we think are the odds of like, okay, those kind of like Dem Soch kind of candidates like winning. But I think these are good filters. So, because, again, like the last one we have here is 18 to 24%. They do really, really well with those, kind of candidates in those Democratic primaries. Okay. So we've got a good list here. We have stuff across various states. We can see like this is Morgantown, West Virginia, right here. Pretty sure, uh, at least I'm pretty sure all of Morgantown, West Virginia, is in this list, right? College town. So a lot of college towns are appearing in here, for sure. I think when we get to New York, we'll see those commie corridor seats kind of pop in here as well. We've got a great table, and what you can literally do, again, download it. Easy peasy, right? Um, and it'll appear right here for that little table. It's now in your Excel. It's great. So I think that's pretty much it. You can reset easily, obviously using reset. If you want to go between values or sliders, it's up to you. And just, greater than, less than, um, and all these things. Again, I prefer like being able to set it to a certain range. But yeah, so um, this is Atlas Compare and Atlas Filter. I'm very, very excited about these tools. I'm very proud of the State Navigate team for putting the data together to make this possible, and especially our creative director Jack Kirsting for putting these together. We have a lot more states to open up in, a lot more work to be done. Thank you so much for watching this, and I really do hope that you get a tier 2 subscription and start using these wonderful, wonderful tools as we look ahead to the remaining primaries and the upcoming general elections in state legislatures across the country. I'm Chaz Nuttycombe, the Executive Director, founder of State Navigate. Thank you so much for watching.